So, a warm welcome to Austin Wong. Austin Wong is the eldest of two sons of Dr. Wong. Austin is an entertainment lawyer, producer, writer, and director. He's worked at such companies as Lionsgate Films and BMG, and is currently head of legal and business affairs for Wattpad Webtoon Studios. He was a producer of Bruce McDonald's feature film, The Movie is Broken, and was associate producer for such feature films as Paul Gross's Passchendaele and Fernando Morel's Blindness, starring Julianne Moore and Mark Ruffalo. Austin, a very warm welcome to the ceremony.
Thank you for that, John. Thank you, John and Emmy, for inviting my mom in here to speak. And I just want to start off by saying we really appreciate you giving this honor to my dad. I know that we were very happy to learn he was going to be awarded this. And I can tell you that he would have loved receiving it and he would have absolutely appreciated this recognition. I'm just going to speak a little bit about my dad and who he was as a person. And then I'll throw it to my mom. But for those of you who had the pleasure of meeting him, you'll know that he often was joking around. And when he would speak and give lectures, humor was very much one of his tools. But he would often, in private, he would often refer to himself as a man of sorrows. And the reason for that is he faced a lot of difficulties growing up. And even as a grown man, very respected in his field, he still felt like he faced a lot of challenges. So his whole life, whether it was living through horrors in China or facing racism and prejudice here in Canada, he faced a lot of difficulty. But he always persevered and he thrived. And I personally think one of the reasons he pursued the areas of psychology that he did was because he found that this work truly helped him. And he really wanted to help others in the same way. I know logotherapy very much resonated with him, and many of the topics he pursued were about finding beauty in sadness and how we can strengthen ourselves and learn from suffering. So I was asked to briefly list some of his accomplishments, which I'll do. There are many. He has published over 300 articles and book chapters. He's written and edited 8 books, which include The Human Quest for Meaning. He's been cited over 29,000 times in diverse fields, including stress, death acceptance, and meaning of life. He developed widely used psychology measures such as the death attitude profile and the personal meaning profile. He also founded the International Network on Personal Meaning, of which he was the president, and he was also the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Existential Positive Psychology. He and my mom also together organized the biennial International Meaning Conferences for over 20 years, which I think many of you here actually may have connected. And he was also frequently invited to speak around the world, including at Harvard University, where my brother, his other son, Wesley, is actually a professor there now. My dad also won several other awards, including the Carl Rogers Award from the American Psychological Association. But aside from all of these achievements, which you can readily read more, there's even more that I haven't mentioned on his Wikipedia page or wherever, I also just want to take this opportunity to share a little bit about him and what he was like as a person from my perspective. He was always a loving father. He was always around. However, he was also always working. When he wasn't at his office at the university and he was home, he could always be found in his home office, always writing. And he used to say to me very enthusiastically, "A writer must write, a writer must write." And it was like his little catchphrase. And he just had ideas all the time and inspiration all the time. And he just always had to write things down. So even if we were going shopping or at Disneyland or something, he would find a bench and he would keep writing on these little pads of paper. All over the house, there were pads of paper with his ideas. So he was very, very devoted to his work. However, I don't want to suggest that he didn't actually pay attention or spend quality time with us. He very much did. As a child, I remember many times he would entertain my brother and I with stories. He would just make up stories on the spot, and then they'd grow into these elaborate epics, and we'd always ask for more chapters of the same characters, and he was always happy to oblige. He was also actually, you wouldn't necessarily know this, but very a huge advocate of physical activity and being strong. He actually would always like to say that he worked out a lot and people underestimated how strong he was, but he knew he could defend himself. And he would frequently ask my brother and I to join him and teach us, like, I would say, versions of Kung Fu and yoga, which we always found amusing. And it was very much part of his idea of like wholeness and wellness, which he was very much a proponent of before we actually had the word wellness as a popular kind of buzzword. And even when I grew older, when I was in high school, he was always there to read my essays. He was willing to help me with school projects and spend time with me that way. And even as an adult, a grown adult, whenever I would have questions or issues with, whether it's my work life or other things in life, he was always there to offer advice and very open and eager to share his wisdom, which I know is part of this award. And it couldn't be more apt because he was very much someone that even if he wasn't familiar with necessarily my field of work, he still was able to give a lot of good advice just because it was based on wisdom. And I also wanted to share that, and my mom will speak about his marriage. He had a wonderful marriage with my mom for a very long time. But the other thing that I really noticed about him growing up with him as a father is that it was very evident he always had a desire to help others. So when I was growing up, we lived in Peterborough, which is, about an hour and a half northeast of Toronto. Toronto being the big city, and Peterborough was like a smaller city. And so we lived there, and it was a university town. That's where my mom and my dad worked. And my dad was a professor at Trent University, which is in Peterborough, this small city north of Toronto. And he noticed that there were a lot of students coming from Hong Kong and China and other places, as well as a lot of immigrant families coming from various other countries. And he and my mom decided to start a weekly Bible study and also a church in our home church. But I mostly remember like there was like this Bible study where people would start coming to our house every Friday night, and there were so many of them, and we started getting refugee families and people from all over the world. And he really ended up developing with my mom. They developed a very strong community and fellowship. And that community was all ages. It was people that were in high school still that had come over overseas, to families that had been there for maybe a couple generations but hadn't really felt connected, and a lot of students. And then all these people coming together in my house, they really formed a strong community. And over the years, that community has continued to survive even after we left Peterborough. And to this day, if I travel to Hong Kong or China or really anywhere, there's a lot of people from this community scattered around, and they're always very eager and wanting to welcome me over or take me out to dinner because of the relationship with my parents. And it's very clear that there's still a strong bond there. So it made an impression on me how he really was able to build community. And he's done this basically everywhere we've lived. I remember things very vividly, like people coming to my house if they had issues or legal problems, and he would help them solve it or try to help them think it through or even get them together with other people. And I remember one night in the middle of the night being woken up, and it was some university students from Hong Kong that had just been in a really horrible car accident. And the first person they thought to call was my dad and my mom, and they came over because they knew that we were always going to be there. So essentially, I mean, my parents really gave of themselves a lot. And I know that this was a driver in my dad's work, helping others. And he really wanted his work on meaning of life and resilience and flourishing to help as many people as he could. It's what he dedicated his life to. So through his research, his conferences, his books, and those articles, I know it was his way of trying to reach and help as many people as possible. So really grateful for this award for him. So I'm going to turn the time over to my mom, Dr. Lillian Wong, and she'll share other perspectives on my dad that people may not have known.
Thank you so much, Austin. I think what you've just exemplified is that when a person gets this kind of award, it is not just for work they've done, it is about the way they have lived their lives and what they have created with the way they have related to other people and to their own family as well. So thank you for that, because I think there's a lot of lessons in that for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you,
Lillian.
Austin. Thank you.
Well,
So,
Amy, I really appreciate this opportunity. Well, Paul was born in Tianjin, China in 1937, and he came to Canada as an international student in 1961. He's not only, a brilliant scholar, but he's very spiritual. And he found, actually, he is the founding pastor and ordained minister of the Chinese Gospel Church in downtown Toronto. And there are quite a few churches come out from there. And, he's brilliant. I'll tell you what, and after we got married, and when I was a high school teacher in Ottawa, he finished his 4 years honors psychology program at Carleton University in 2 years. He finished his master's degree in 8 months. And he finished his PhD in psychology in 2 years from the University of Toronto. So within 5 years, he got all 3 degrees. And because he did not fulfill the 3 years residency of PhD from U of T, so he came home and his professor, Dr. Amsel, said he just got a job in Texas, University of Texas in Austin. He just came home and he said, "We're going to Texas." I said, "Oh, okay, we go to Texas." Well, I was a high school teacher. I quit my job and we went to Texas. And so this is kind of a life that Paul and I always share. You never know when he's going to go where and how we're going to deal with whatever. And so what, and we just have great faith between each other. And, we've been married for 59 years. And you know how we live together? I am very different from Paul. Paul's a writer. Paul's a thinker. And I was a basketball player and I'm a gymnast. And I love math and I like to sing. How could these 2 people get together and live for so long? Because we remember a missionary from South Africa gave us a plaque. And he said, "I don't have a lot of money to give you a gift on your wedding," but she's an artist. She said, "Each for the other and both for the Lord." And for 59 years, that's how we live together. And we are quite different from when we first got married, but we travel everywhere and we trusted him. And I built up his, the side that he isn't. So he allows me to do whatever I wanted to do. But I really was so happy that the Lord have given us together. And it is amazing. So I know he had gone through a lot. He's a war baby. When his mom had him, she did not have calcium in her body. So when he was born, his bones are very soft. Even when the day that he died, his bones are very, very soft. So he had very little calcium. But also he has, his chest is turned in and so physically he suffered a lot, but spiritually and cognitively, he's very brilliant. And he went through so quickly and he loves people. And so that's why when we were in Peterborough, we had Friday night, sometimes we had 40 people in our home from Vietnam, Vietnamese refugees, Laos refugees, university students, and overseas students. We always have people in our house, and that's how we live. And we're very happy that we were able to contribute. Of course, I am writing a book about the undefeatable, the undefeatable, I'm going to let you know. The pause looking for, meaning in life, overcome difficulties. And it's going to, hopefully by the end of this year, that will come out. And I wanted to read something to you. And I know you know he had lots of research, right, in many areas, learning theory. Yeah, learning theory, social cognition, existential psychology, and positive psychology, and everything else. And we could, you could read that out. But he was also elected as a fellow for the American Psychological Association and Canadian Psychological Association. And I think Austin already said a lot about him. And when 2 years ago, he had a molar taken out without antibiotics. So what happened was when he came home, his mouth were all swollen, his cheeks all swollen, and his upside on his head is also swollen. I had to rush. I did not have time to phone 911, so I drove him to the hospital for emergency. And during that time, he thought he was going to die. And then at night, he wrote. And then I'm going to read some of the things that he was writing. He said, I am grateful to have all of you during this period, this painful but necessary experience of descending into the abyss of hell to test my faith and my theory of flourishing through suffering. I am grateful for this new Mount Sinai, which is a hospital he was at, miracle. This Mount Sinai miracle and the birth of the 10 spiritual laws. I honestly did not expect I would survive the general anesthesia, especially when the oral surgeon informed me that they may have to drill a hole in my throat to help me breathe, because the swelling in the area that is infected may threaten my breathing. The last few painful days and nights have added more depth and clarity to my theory. I am more convinced than ever about the truth that life is suffering. The human existence is defined by suffering, sandwiched between the first cry when entering this world and the last gasp of air. The challenge of existential positive psychology is to find out what makes life worth living in spite of all the suffering. And number two, how can we transcend the inescapable suffering and transform it into well-being and flourishing? My mission in psychology is to understand the meaning of suffering as the foundation for the positive psychology of global well-being. My life calling is to reduce human suffering and to spread the good news that an abundant life is possible only when we become aware of our brokenness and our need for repentance and rebirth, because we have lived the first time wrongfully. And this is the message of Jesus, but also the message of William James and Viktor Frankl. So, well, thank you for allowing me to read this.
That was marvelous, Lillian. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for sharing all that about Paul with us. Thank you so much. And John,
Yes.
I believe that we have another person witnessing about Paul.
We do indeed. So we're going to come next to Dimitri Leonti. So Dimitri, let's see if we can find you and have you on the spotlight. Thank you so much, Lillian. That was so moving.
Thank you, Lillian.
So, yeah, thank
so
you.
Over to you, Dimitri. You've known Paul for a very long time.
Yes, dear friends, I highly appreciate the honor to be appointed as the person to announce the award given to Paul. Unfortunately, Paul is not with us today. I met Paul at the first meaning conference in the year 2000. and it was the turning point in my life. And this conference also became one of the turning points in my life. Probably I never saw such a fantastic conference, fantastic by the not just by the number and level of people who attended to this conference and who spoke at this conference, but also their variety. Paul managed to collect people from different fields, from different communities. It was a conference where academics spoke together with psychotherapists, and they discussed the common themes on the common language. So it was something unprecedented for me. Usually psychotherapists and academic scholars, so they don't collect together. They rarely discuss common points with each other. But Paul, it's not occasionally that meaning was the topic that united everyone. There was a wonderful, there is a wonderful metaphor coined by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry about meaning as the divine knot holding the things together. And Paul was a kind of divine knot holding the people together, different people together, and he was doing a very important mission, especially in our world that is rather split now. A lot of danger of splitting the world even more and more, and the people who unite people again and to help to overcome this split are very, very important in our world. And Paul was the person who was trying many years and decades. I attended to most of the meaning conferences he's organized, not all of them, unfortunately, but most of them. And I saw this again and again, and this huge and fantastic job of community creating and community uniting that Paul did. And I was amazed all the time by his kindness, generosity, and curiosity, his main features. But we give the award, the Socrates Award, not for being the good person, the nice person, but for the contribution he made and for wisdom. Wisdom is a very important thing. Wisdom, some time ago, I did some research about wisdom. I tried to make sense of this complicated construct, and I came to the point that wisdom is a balance, is a transcending dichotomies, is making ends meet and bringing together things that are usually viewed as uncompatible. But the wisdom is balance of beliefs and realities, the balance of loving oneself and loving one's neighbor. It's not opposite things. It's the balance of truth and relationships. What is more important, truth or relationships? It's the balance of present and future. And Paul Wong explicated this idea of wisdom as balance, as wisdom as balance of all the things. And so it's quite understandable that the first Socrates Medal award just is his, because he is just the symbol of this wisdom, of this complicated construct. One more things I would mention is vigorous theorizing. Some decades ago, Salvatore Maddi published a chapter about the value and benefits of what he called vigorous theorizing. Not so many people dare to theorize vigorously, and Paul was among the brightest vigorous theorists I ever met. and I like this style. I try to learn in a sense of this style of theorizing. So I'm just finishing my short talk. I'm very happy that Paul Wong is the winner of this first Socrates Medal award, and I would just add that he's still alive, because the very important task and mission is staying alive before your death, not to die before your death. And those people who were alive during their life, during their lifetime, they stay alive even after their death. And so Paul is alive, Paul is with us. So let's greet Paul.
I think Lillian is in full agreement with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dimitri. Well, and I think this is the moment where we bring Lillian and Austin back on the screen.
Absolutely.
Amy, let's do
Absolutely.
that. Yes.
So, of course, as we are online, Lillian and Austin, we cannot actually hand you the Socrates Medal. I think John will be able to show it on the screen, showing a picture of it.
Let's do that just for a moment so that we can see it before you present
so there
it.
it is.
All right.
It is a very beautiful medal.
Beautiful.
And we will send it to you in the post just as soon as we can.
Wonderful. Well, let's take the picture down because we're almost ready for a round of applause. So
yeah, hang on. I have to still.
Let's take the picture down so we can see. Yeah.
So here it is. With the authority invested in me as president of the existential movement, it is a great honor to give this to you, Lillian, on behalf of your husband, Paul Wong, for his contribution of wisdom to the world. Thank you.
Let's open the microphones for a round of applause.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
And thank you so much to all three of you for speaking so beautifully about him. I think even people who didn't know him will realize what a special person he was.
Thank you so much, Amy, and John, and Dimitri, and Austin. I really appreciate this. Now, how do I take a photo now? Command 3?
Shift Command 3.
Shift Command 3.
Oh, Shift Command 3. Did I get it?
Yeah, I've taken 1 too, just in case.
Oh, me too, yes. What a wonderful moment.
Wonderful. Yeah. And all the best.
Yes, and you too. And do stay, because we now go on to invite Erwin Jalom and his son to take the stage.
We do indeed.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Lillian.
Austin
Thank you,
and Lillian,
Austin.
and Dimitri.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.